All right, so we'll go ahead and get started. And if other people join, they can join. And we do get a lot of views on the recording. I do want to say something about that real quick to those of you that are here and to those of you watching this recording. We provide the recording as a resource just for the people who absolutely can't be here. Okay, if you can be here, you need to be here in person and not rely on a recording because you're going to get more out of it. The recording is for the benefit of those who just can't come because of other work schedules. Okay, so please don't use the recordings as a crutch because we all know we don't go back and watch them like we should, if we're being honest with ourselves most of the time. Okay. All right. That said, we want to welcome our special guest today, Casey DeAnda. So Casey, how long have you been in real estate now?
So this is my fourth year.
Fourth year. And if I remember correctly, you started during COVID.
Yes. So I started in 2020. I was doing my classes with Wayne at KW. So we were supposed to end in April. So in March, we moved over to Zoom only. So I was going in person and then moved over to Zoom and then had to wait to take my state test and drove to LA instead of Fresno. And that was like in September of 2020 that I held my license hung my license at that point. Yeah.
Okay. And then she started at the Market Center and started in productivity coaching. And we still had all kinds of things in place as far as rules and regulations and what we could and couldn't do during that time. And actually, when I was talking about some of the challenges that you had when you started, and challenges not in a bad way, just your schedule of other things, I had forgotten about that until just now. So we'll add that to the list. So Casey, we love her. She is consistently in the top 10 of an over 300 agent market center. She's from my personal market center. So we love that. And we just had awards again yesterday. And again, congratulations. And so when she started, she had a part-time, full-time job with helping your husband with your other business, right?
Yeah.
Three very active daughters who she's very active involved with. She is not an absentee mom and COVID to boot. So,
Mhm.
Casey, tell us a little bit in more detail about that and how you had to adjust your schedule to do all of those things.
So in the beginning, just so you guys kind of know, I did interview with productivity coaching and then also some teams, and team leaders. And even though I did have a side business, this was something that I was going to do, part time, which we all usually say. And so talking to some team leaders, there are some teams, they were like, okay, we're gonna hit the ground running. And I just wasn't really in that frame of mind. And I knew that my kids were in school. I needed to be off by a certain time. I wanted it to be wanted to be flexible. So when I would talk to Jodi, she was like, we're at your pace, however fast or slow you want to go. So that was the main reason why I did start with productivity coaching. That was it just made me feel more comfortable. And so then I really just had to get into my schedule. One of the things Jodi talked about was, put all of your family and priorities in your calendar first. And then we'll work around that, with what works for you for your scheduling. So, that's what I did. So my kids went to school at the time, 8 to 2. So I would do my lead gen from 8 to 11. Working out was really important to me at the time. So working out from home because it's COVID, right? Couldn't go anywhere anyways. And so 11 to 12, I would work out, then do some business servicing for another hour, and then be ready to go and pick them up from school. I coached their softball teams. I took them to gymnastics. Most of my kids were in a sport. Someone was doing something, during the Monday through Friday, and then weekends, obviously, for games. So that's kind of what I think for sure the building blocks were really important and honing in. I think we did Ignite at the time is what we were doing. So honing in on scheduling, calendaring, and sticking to my schedule as much as possible. But I think the really important thing is that my conventional lead gen wasn't sit in front of my computer and make my calls. Like I know that is for some people, but that's not me. A lot of mine would be I'd be at one of their practices or something, and I would be on Facebook messaging people or texting people or on Instagram and just like really being intentional with my time. Um, and yeah, so that was I think really important, and I just made sure I stuck with that consistently.
Awesome. And as I recall, it seems like you had called in to some of the coaching things on Zoom from the car in the CCGI parking lot.
Yeah, I do remember that. Or I'd be driving to drop my daughter off because my oldest daughter, her dad lives down south, and so it was like an hour and a half drive to where I had the meeting point. So I would be on a Zoom call, So really, again, we can make 1,000 excuses why we can't make something, but I really just wanted. I was like, I'm committed to this. I want to see what I can do, and I want to. The only way to do that is by going 100% in, 110% So yeah.
Yeah, and you were very committed. So, how long did it take you to get into production?
Okay, so at the time when I started, our cap was 20,000. So that was kind of what that was our cap. And so my first full year, because it was September of 2020 is when I hung my license. My first listing was November. It was actually Halloween was my first listing. And then so I had 2 units closed by the end of 2020. And then 2021, I had that was my first full year, and I had 21 units. And so I did get Rookie of the Year that year. But yeah, I would say within 2 months, I had my first deal. So
That's fantastic. And if memory serves, you capped your first year in 10 months, right?
yeah, so even with the high cap of 20,000, I was able to have a couple nice checks before.
Yeah. And just for everybody on the call to put that into perspective, many of your caps are somewhere between 22 to maybe 32,000-ish. Okay, I don't know what every single person's cap is because of where you live. The cost of living is higher. Where Casey lives in Tulare County, she has to sell 2 to 3 homes for every one home the rest of you have to sell, no matter what market center you're in. And she was still able to, and they have since brought the cap down to be more in line with what it is everywhere else as far as cost of living goes. So she literally had to do a minimum of twice as much, up to 3 times as much as the rest of you do to cap. And she's still, with all of this going on, capped in her first year in 10 months, which is phenomenal, particularly in the circumstance. So the second year, if I remember correctly, you capped in 4 months.
yeah, so I want to say it was about 4 months, yeah, that I capped. And then my third year, I capped the same month. So September is my reset. So I was able to cap by the end of September. And then this year, I just capped last week. So
And they just announced that. So in the month of her rolling over to her cap, she capped. So, how did you have to change your mindset and your thinking when you started in real estate?
I think the biggest thing is that I just really being intentional with my time and my touches. So, I mean, I don't know everybody, and I think we talked about it a couple times in some of our meetings, but your unfair advantage, right? Everyone has some type of unfair advantage. So at the time, I was coaching, a couple of my daughter's teams. And just so you guys kind of have a little background, I wasn't born and raised out here. I actually am from Southern California. So I moved here. Now it'll be almost, I think, 10 years, but I started real estate 4 years. So I was about 6 years, 5, 6 years into living here. So no family, no friends, none of that. So strictly just people that I've met, more recently. So I really tapped into my SOI was people that, I had coached their kids. And so that's kind of what I honed in on. And so, although I've already built those relationships, I really just, like I said, was intentional with my time. I was still coaching. So I was like, okay, I mean, I wasn't telling people, hey, I'm a realtor, like as I'm coaching, but you know, you would be surprised how much trust you gain from people without even really trying. And they already know the type of person you are, ethics wise, and just your morale in general, when they see and talk to you. So I just really honed in on that, and that helped a lot, so, and again, it was COVID, I worked from home, I didn't have, so it was just really the coaching, and I didn't get a ton of leads from it, but that's where I started, so that's my starting point was there.
Awesome. So, what do you think is your most intentional, purposeful way that you currently lead generate?
Coming from contribution, has always been my thing. So I don't, I talked about this too. Like, I don't like, I'll call people I don't know all day long. The people that I know, and have relationships with are a little harder, to ask for referrals and things like that and ask for business. I've gotten better at it. But really just more of saying, like, I'm here to help. I'm a resource. I tell all my clients all the time, I'm here as a resource for you in any way, whether that's a handyman, whether that's, getting an HVAC guy. So depending on the time of year it is, that's usually how I change my touch, so like I usually have a couple events a year. So inviting people to things and that sort of, um, in that sort of way, that's how I am intentional with it.
And I know this wasn't on our list of questions, but can you share a little bit about the events that you do and how they've helped?
Yeah, so I like having parties. That's fun for me. So I've always done like a Christmas party or Halloween party, different things. And so it ended up turning into kind of like a client event, at first. So my first one was it would have been like in 2020, I think it was 2021. So I think it was amidst COVID. I don't really remember, but I know it was in March. So it was like a mimosas and like a brunch type thing. And so I just would invite friends and it would and then I always tell them to invite people, so that's how I meet new people. And I always raffle something off. Everyone likes free things. So those are kind of the things I did. Bridal shows, that's a big one for me. I love doing bridal shows. I get a lot. So anything that's going to be um, some type of change in their life, right? Someone's getting married, having a baby. Those are the ones I really try to get into. But then this one that I do now that has really been nice is my breast cancer awareness event that I've started last year. So I wanted to do something that was close to my heart, that I can continue to do regularly. I think consistency is really key, and it's just everything we do. So that and my Christmas party, those are the two that I do every year. And then I haven't really gotten into a full client event where it's just like I know a lot of big teams do that. I'm always nervous no one will show up. So, but when I did my breast cancer, just so you guys kind of know, I invited all the people I know personally, phone calls, texts, things like that. I did a bulk blast email, but I also put it on Eventbrite and I put it on Facebook as a public event, which this is at my house, just so you guys know. It's not at a venue yet. And so eventually that's hopefully what I can do in the future is make it, big enough where we have it at a venue.
So, I would say 80 people showing up is probably big enough to move to a venue.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a good turnout this year. And it's just, you know what, you just never know. And so it's always scary whenever I did any of my first events. And I do a lot of buyer events, first time home buyer seminars with a credit expert, things like that. And sometimes I have 5 or 6 people show up. It's not always a ton of people, but that's okay. It's again the consistency. People know that you're going to have them, and that's how I do my touch. I have a lot of people that are going to buy a home eventually, so I continue to invite them. And there's a lot of times where I will not get a text back forever, and then a year later they're like, "Hey, Casey, I'm ready." I mean, it happens. So just again, keep plugging away, and they'll come.
Yeah, absolutely. And the events aren't about how many people show up.
Mm-mm.
It's about all the work you do before and after for the reach out. So that's really great. So what would you recommend to new agents to help them be successful? Especially new agents that have challenges in their lives, whether it be health issues or kids or, and by the way, when we say challenges and kids, it's not necessarily a bad thing, right? But it is, they do create extra challenges to getting things done. So,
Yeah.
and other jobs and those types of things.
I honestly think that having a second job, having a family, things that it forces you to come up with a schedule. You don't have an open schedule. You don't have 9 to 5 openly available where you could do whatever you want. Because I'll be honest, when I do have an open day like that, I'm actually less productive. It's when I know that I have a busy schedule and I need to be in it, and I only have this amount of time to do each thing. So I really would say that that is number one. Setting a goal for how many like people you want to talk to, and that could be going to the grocery store, whatever it is that wherever you're going to be that day, like, what can I do? Think about it. Like, what can I do while I'm out at the soccer game? How many conversations can I have? And like, I'll be honest. I mean, I would say an extrovert and I am a talkative person, but sometimes I don't want to. I go out and I'm like, I don't want to, but and so it forces you to really come out of your shell and have conversations. And it doesn't have to necessarily be about real estate at first, just it's all about relationships. And if you can remember that, and just know that this is all about relationships and coming from a good place, and not thinking about how many, houses do I want. I guess of course you need to have goals, but how much money am I going to make and how much am I this? Like, I really have never focused on that. Um, Now I kind of do a little bit more just because of course I always want to do better than last year, but for the most part I don't really think about that. I just know that I want to help people. um that's my number one goal. That's what I want to do. I want to help people get into homes. I want them to attain the goals that they thought they couldn't, and so yeah, I think just making sure you're in a schedule, what date, and be realistic. Don't, yes, of course, we want, 3 to 5 hours of lead gen a day, Monday through Friday. That would be great, but that might not be what works for you. So if you can only commit to 2 hours a day, for now, and then as you get into it, add on to that, that's great, but be consistent, track your numbers. Definitely track your numbers. I'm not great at that. And I know that there's still lots of things, guys, that I need to work on. I'm not perfect by any means. And I could potentially be even a better producer if I did everything that I'm supposed to do. um, but yeah, so track your numbers so you could see like how many calls was that. Because sometimes, you're like, I want to talk to 10 people today, but you got 10 answering machines and you got one person that picked up. And it's like that could have been a 30-minute conversation. So, just really just making sure you have a schedule, try to stick to it as much as possible, have a goal for yourself. I want to sell how many houses, I want to talk to this many people, and try to keep them. You want to obviously an annual goal, but to break them down on a monthly and a weekly to a daily basis makes it feel more attainable. When you have such this large goal in front of you, it almost is like, I can't do that, so breaking it down to make it smaller is very helpful.
Thank you. So, how do you think? I know you kind of touched on it earlier on, but how did the coaching help you get going?
I think it definitely I had no idea what I was getting into. No idea. I have no idea what it looked like. I didn't know what my schedule was supposed to be. Everyone talks about how, it's flexible, right? So that's really all I knew. So, being in productivity coaching definitely helped me accountability, right? To have someone there because I know the next week I'm gonna have to talk to Jodi and she's gonna ask me, did I do what I said I was gonna do? So maybe I'm like, shoot, it's a couple days away. Like it gets you, to do those things. And then also just the building blocks, of knowing, getting into those good habits from the get-go. Because those will carry over, so as long as you can do them in the beginning, I think it's what, a couple months to make it a habit, right? So it's like doing those things consistently, definitely helped. Absolutely. I no doubt about it. If I didn't start there, going into, being a solo agent on my own or, on a team, I really wanted to do everything and know how to do it all myself and eventually, delegate those items. But like, I wanted to know what I was doing. I'm very much like, I've always been kind of like the go-to person and I wasn't. And so I was in a very weird place in my life and I was in my 30s and I'm like, this is so weird. I'm starting over. I don't know anything that I'm doing. So I think that's also why I was so driven to like know and really have structure.
Awesome. So I want to open it up to the rest of the group if you would like. Who has a question for Casey? I'm going to put it back where we can see us all.
Oh, good. I answered everything.
No
Well,
questions?
you know what? I'm just wondering, if you have any tips. I know it's absolutely essential and as well as like meeting new people, but maybe in the beginning you kind of have to start with your people. Like, did you have like any phrases you used or how did you overcome like, or maybe you didn't feel this way, but it just seems sometimes a little awkward approaching some friends. Did you
Hmm.
have like kind of a
A general
yeah,
conversation. So I know we have the one that's like family, asking about job, but I can't remember the acronym is right now.
Word.
Um,
oh,
but so that's one, just calling, hey, how you doing? How's everybody? Okay, so this is what I would usually do. I would usually go to Facebook or Instagram and I'd see what they recently did.
oh, that's good.
Did they come back from a trip? Did their daughter just graduate? Something like that.
I love it.
Yeah, so I could just have a talking point, you know, and then not seem like, hey, I'm in real estate. Do you want?
Yeah, exactly. That's such a good tip. Thank you. I'm so glad I asked.
Yeah, you're welcome. No problem.
Emily?
Hi, Casey.
Hello.
My question is, what do you do on the days when you wake up and you think to yourself, I really don't want a real estate today?
Um, so I usually just get a cup. Well, this is my normal routine. I get out. Well, and also too, guys. Like I will say this: it's really important to work out or do something you really love, gardening, whatever it is. Keep those hobbies. That'll keep you driven. So before, when I'd wake up and I'd feel that way, I would still start my day the way I normally do. Get my coffee, come over here to my office, get my laptop, look at emails and things like that. But just kind of flip it around then. If you normally wake up and maybe get right to work, but you don't feel like I don't want to do that right now, whether it's yoga or going on the TV and doing like those little videos or going to work out, maybe flip your schedule around a little bit because you don't feel quite motivated. Because I will say, every time I did work out, that would get my endorphins going and that would make me want to do it. But that's when habits come into effect though. So if you can't do that, because you're like, well, this is the time I have to work. I can't go work out. I have to work right now. When we have good habits and structure on the days we're not motivated, we're still going to do it. If you don't have those habits and structure in place, right, then on any day we'd be like, meh, I guess I could just not do it today. It's like, but knowing like, hey, I've done this every day. This is my routine. That's what keeps us going. So on the days we're not motivated, that pushes us through because those are our natural habits and our natural daily tasks.
Love that. And thanks, Casey, because my husband edits this. So he's going to hear you say that about working out and he's going to be bugging me to get back into my routine.
I know what, and on a personal note, that is something I slack. Well, I had knee surgery. There's a couple other things, but so I haven't been as active as I was when I first started, and I do think that has something to do with it. I think that I would be much further along, because I just think that working out for me, at least, it gave me a lot of clarity. Because I usually have like a ton of ideas, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, and so that like if I go for a walk or a run or whatever, it just clears my mind and I feel like I have more clarity and I could just kind of like nail down things better.
Trincy says this is so true. I must work out first thing in the morning or I will drag all day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. What other questions do you guys have for Casey?
I got to add on to that. My phone, everyone in my house hates my phone. I have two phones, right? But the main one, it goes off almost like every 5 seconds. But
Oh
it
my
keeps me accountable for everything that I need to do, from going to bed, from waking up, from taking my supplements, from walking, eating at this time, have a meeting at this time. Like it keeps me accountable. If I lose my phone, my life is over. That's the way I feel because I set alarms for everything so that way it
God.
can keep me accountable. And sometimes I want to throw the phone. I do. I want to hide it in the closet, but I have to have it because it keeps me on track. If I don't do it, I'm a piece of crap. Like I can't function. And it's not
Yeah.
me physically being on the phone. It's just the alarms that I set keeps me on track. So thank you,
Yeah.
Casey. Appreciate
Mhm.
that.
And I also want to say something else about like the whole intentional and like quality of your calls, because I don't know, where everyone's at with lead genning, but if you're just going to call just to say you have the dials, but not actually have a quality conversation. And what I mean, so like scripts are important, because you can get someone on the phone, you're like, finally someone answered, and then you have no idea what to say. And then you're like, okay, do you, want to buy or sell a house? And they're like, no. And you're like, okay, bye. So having a quality script is really important, because when you do get a hold of that person, whether it's your SOI, whether you're, circle calling an area, whatever it may be, making sure that, you're working really hard, right now. This is a very hard job, and if you're going to any opportunity that comes up, you want to take full advantage of those opportunities, because, you're not going to get one every single, one every day, maybe, it might be once a week or once every 2 weeks. So you just want to make sure, sorry, that you're really taking control of that conversation, and just really maximizing every touch you do have.
I love that. That is very important.
Casey, I remember seeing in the past, like where you had your kids involved, licking the envelopes and putting stamps on when you're doing mail outs. Can you talk a little bit about family involvement in your career? You got muted.
Yep. Okay. So, I will say in the beginning, and I'll kind of compare, because, when I first started, there was another, lady in here. Oh, you guys remember Brittany? And I remember she was struggling with, her family and not being able to have the time to set aside. And so one thing we just talked about that I did, that helped me, was having a conversation. This is a big, this was important to me. So making sure that my family was on board with what my goals were was really important. So whether that's, hey, this is the time I'm not going to be available, like between 11, whatever it is, and if my husband's helping out or not, or this is when I need to make phone calls, guys, things like that. Just making sure everyone knew what was going on. I think even though they were little, I mean, my littlest at the time was like 5, but she knew, okay, mom's on the phone, so don't go in the room. That was an important conversation to have. And then, yeah, like I have her post some videos for me. We'll go, a lot of what I work a lot. So if I'm doing thank you cards, or what they really like to do is when I'm doing like the pop buys, they like to put the baskets together. For my older ones, I'm like, hey, lick these stamps and stamp them, and I'll give you like $15 or whatever it is. Right. So, getting them involved in like all my events I have, my husband helps me with. There's no way that I could do this without the support of my family. There's just, it would be really, really difficult if I didn't have their support. And as you move along in your business, it all changes. So in the beginning, you're making a lot of phone calls and you maybe don't see as much results, right? But again, the consistency is where you get those results later. So I'm finally now in my 4th year seeing more of those referrals. Like, oh, I have a friend that wants to buy or sell. And so, but I mean, you don't usually get that right away, right? So just knowing like things come with time. And so staying consistent is really, really important. I know I've said it like a million times, but yeah, with having anybody that's with you, if you have your family support on that or help you in any which way. I mean, I think Alex, my husband's been off work for like a year. And so that's helped me because he helps pick up the kids now, because I am a little bit busier in my business than I was, 2 years ago. And then he helps put things together for me. Sometimes he picks up some gifts for my closing gifts, just things like that. So anything that you can take off your plate and have them help. And sometimes you might have older kids, so they can definitely be more helpful. Or even if it's getting them involved, like, hey, let's post an Instagram video, because people like to see your little kids versus me talking like this in front of a screen. They like to see a cute kid like twirling around or doing something funny, so those engagements help a lot too.
Awesome.
You mentioned pop buys. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So, in the beginning, and I do it all the time, but like, there's a lot of things I think you can do. And, in the beginning where you're like, I don't have a ton of buyers, I don't have a listing, you know. So what I stayed with, I was obviously making my calls and then doing my pop buys and my events. So I didn't really have a whole lot of clientele yet. So pop buys I would do seasonally. So like for Christmas, for Halloween, I do like a pumpkin and I put little goodies in, whether it's um you know, it could be like things for kids, things for adults, it just depends, but everyone has the same thing. So I usually go to the dollar store and just get a bunch of stuff and put them together. And then I have a little tag, you know, whatever that holiday is with my name and something clever. And then I just drop them off at my clients' houses. Doesn't have to be people that at the time when I first started, they weren't my clients. They were like my friends or people that I knew, like my SOI, right? And then as you move along in your business, now you're dropping them off at your client's house and or potential clients, people you've been talking to. But I usually do those about 4 or 5 times a year. So Halloween, Christmas, um, Easter, I do Valentine's Day. Hold on 1 second, take it off. Oh, sorry. And then what else? I'm trying to think of the other one. What Easter?
Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving. Yeah, I do Thanksgiving, like thankful for my clients, things like that. So, but yeah, you literally guys, you just put something together and you like stick it on their porch. You could, you know, ring the doorbell if you want. I don't usually do that. And a lot of times they'll tag me on Instagram, you know, like thank you so much. And so again, that's how you circulate on other people's feed, you know. So they're seeing you from someone else, they're like, oh, she recommended that person or she posted something. And so that's, I mean, your you can't have like someone ask you like if you could get in front of like 5 million people or something, like what would that mean to you, like what would you pay for that? And then you know people like give a number or whatever and they're like okay, you have it at your fingertips. It's Instagram and it's Facebook. You have free marketing, use it, you know. And you may only get 1 or 2 views at first and you may only get a couple likes, but again the consistency, that's how you get the algorithms, people reposting, people commenting. And then when you comment on people's posts, that also is a huge changes the algorithm. So social media is probably I'd recommend, like that's the number one thing I'd probably recommend. As far as you know, I never pay for leads. The only time I would do
Say that again. Say that one more time.
I don't pay for leads. Um, so the only time I would really pay for anything would be if I have a listing, and then I would do like a Facebook ad on it. And but yeah, everything else it was phone calls and SOI. Lean into your SOI. Um, that's really, I mean, you don't want to spend a bunch of money. You don't have to spend a bunch of money on leads. These are people that know you, like you, have worked with you, have been friends with you. And there are some people that, you know, you'd be surprised. You thought, oh my gosh, they went with another agent. You're not entitled to anyone, you know? So just remember that you're not entitled. You need to earn your business and you need to show them why you are number one and why they should work with you. But yeah, lean into them. You know, you'll be surprised. And the people that you wouldn't think that are your cheerleaders and in your corner. So yeah.
Trincy?
So I have a question. Do you get, or how do you get like interaction with other agents from like different states or whatever to like send you referrals? Because, and I ask that because so I work for the federal government. I work for NASA, and I've been everywhere from military and everything else. So I've been everywhere. In California, I've only been back here for like 10 years. But a lot of the people that I know are from different states. And so I'm like, okay, if you're coming to California, you know, I can help you out. But it's just like I know some realtors in different areas, different states. But how do I get my name out there so that way I can get, you know, all the people that's coming to California come to me?
That's okay. So there's Facebook groups. There's a lot of different Facebook groups that you could, I know KW has their own. So maybe going into, that state, whatever that state is, especially because if they're coming from, they're coming from your company or they're just people
Like
like,
people I know, like for instance, like I know people from like different countries and stuff like that that I've, you know, contacted and say, hey, I'm doing real estate and so forth. But that's kind of like what is that? What do they call it? I can't remember. I got so much going on right now. A conflict of interest because
Mm,
I met them through NASA. Even
uh-huh.
though we have a personal relationship, I don't want it to be kind of like a conflict of interest. But then,
Yeah.
like I said, I also have people that are co-workers or either just friends that I've
Mhm,
met along the years.
mhm.
And, I don't know, and I meet other real estate agents, but I'm like, how do I get those referrals to come to me like when they do come to Cali?
Yeah, so I see a lot of emails from like in command. So I don't know like how long you've been an agent, but in command, there's a whole referral section there for you. So I get a lot of like email blasts from other, agents out of state that say, hey, this is a little bit about me. The next time you have a client in this area, I'd love to help. So I mean, you could literally do that. You could send like a blast email out to the agents in different states and say like, hey, if you have anybody that's looking, I'd love to help, and same thing, like I might have, of course, you want to also, again, coming from contribution, like, do you have someone, I would love to have a referral partner in your area. Do you have anybody you work with out here? Kind of build that relationship. So, I will say that's not like a strong suit of mine. I do refer people out. I do have a couple people in each state, but I know there are agents that are strictly referral. Like they really, I mean, they don't even really do a whole lot of business. They just refer, and they're just getting those commission checks, and they don't even sell the homes themselves, So, um, which is great. I mean, that's amazing. That's an amazing tool. But I would probably start there. I'd probably look into command and then the referral partners, and then just start sending emails out. You can create a design in command that's like your general kind of like generic, this is me, about me. And then you can send that email blast out.
Yeah, and we're gonna have some a workshop or a mastermind specifically around that coming up soon. We got some really good points at the CAR Expo with that, and some of the social media that we've really been talking about, and we'll talk about more, is a key way to get those referrals.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
Mhm.
Any other questions for Casey?
I have one. Hi, Casey.
Hi, how are you?
Hi. So, I know you're talking about your events. So, do you usually get like sponsors to help you with those, or how do
Yes.
you do
So
it?
that is something that I was better at this year. I spent a lot of my own money. And so I have a lot of people like, Casey, stop spending your money. I'm like, I know. So like this is Real Mortgage. So he's one of our, he's the lender that I use out here the most. But yeah, for my breast cancer event, I had people donate raffle baskets. I had someone donate pumpkins. I had someone donate for the bounce house. So I definitely, and I told them, what especially when it's an event like you believe in, a lot of times people will be like, oh, like there was people I called like, hey, I'm having this event. How much is it for this? And like, oh my gosh, my mom had breast cancer. Like, I would love to donate something. Okay, So I know it won't work for every event, but it is, so definitely asking. And then I'd go to the people that you use the most, so like your lenders, your title officers, I mean, anybody, small businesses, those are the biggest things. And then what are you gonna do for them, right? Like I'm going to promote you here. We're going to have QR codes for every business. We're going to have yard signs, like however, it depends on, what event you're having, how you can incorporate to promote their business also. But yeah, that's something that you want to make sure you do. Try to get other people to pay for it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
Hi Casey. I have a
Hi.
question. Seems like you do a lot and you have a lot on your plate from your kids to your business, transactions going on all at once.
Mhm.
What does your business hours look like? And like about how many hours would you say you work weekly? And do you have a day off? Do you have multiple days off?
Jody's not going to like this answer. I will say this, guys. Okay. Yes, okay. For your sake, have a schedule and try to
She's
stick.
telling you, do as I say, not as I do.
Parent right now that says do as they say, not as they do. Um, I will say there are some sacrifices to being a top producer, and that's just the way that I am. That's just me. I am available for my clients any time of day, any day of the week, which I know can be a weakness. I don't answer text messages or calls like past like 10, but if I'm awake, I'm gonna respond. I mean, that's just kind of the way it is. I have been more intentional though with my time at dinner. There's a couple of things that like have been family arguments, I'll be honest. And so, those are things that I've tried to stay close to. Like if my kids are playing their games now, because now I'm not coaching their teams. If they're playing their games or if we're at dinner and we go to dinner, like I usually actually leave my phone in the car because it is so tempting for me to I'm just that way. Like I am very much let's take care of it now kind of person, and I don't wait. So no, I don't have business hours posted, and no, I don't have days off, but it's been better. Like I have been better about it. And family vacation, I do set that aside. Like this weekend, I don't have an open house or any buyers or anything like that. So this weekend I'll have off. But when I first started, I'd say I was more, especially when you're building your clientele, it's a little easier to have a schedule because you don't have so many moving parts, right? And then I recently just hired an admin a couple of months ago, and then I have my TC, so which your transaction coordinator. So there are a couple of people, if you want to have really stay in your schedule, you have the ability to do that. A lot of these transaction coordinators do work off hours. They do email and respond, and they will do it for you on your behalf too. So if you work a full-time job, you're like, I can't do it Monday through Friday because I can't answer my phone or my emails. When you have those conversations with your clients, like, hey, between 9 to 5, like just know that so-and-so's gonna be reaching out to you. You introduce, right? So they know like, why is this person calling me? So you can absolutely have, a schedule and stay in it and have another job and still be successful at this. You're just, again, you're really just being intentional and really managing your time properly.
And setting those expectations.
Yeah. And that's, again, that's why I knew Jodi wouldn't like my answer. Just having you can definitely have those conversations with your clients. Like, hey, when I go on vacation, I will say this. I know that like when I'm not going to be available on a Saturday or Sunday, or I'm going to be going on vacation, I will talk to my clients that I am in contract with, or I'm working with. If it's a buyer and we're still looking at properties, I will have those specific conversations with them. Like, hey, just so you know, I'm not going to be available tomorrow, but if you want to see something, I will have someone that'll be available to show you the home, or something to that effect, right? Because God forbid they go call another agent because they're like, oh, Casey said she's on vacation. So that will never happen. So I am careful what I say because the people will do that sometimes, So so that's one thing I will for sure do so that I know that I'm not going to miss out on anything, but they know they're taken care of.
That's great. Lori?
Casey, you mentioned open houses. Do you do a lot of open houses, and did you do a lot from the very beginning?
Okay, so I only host my own open houses. But that's just because that's how I did it. I thought about doing if I don't have open houses coming up, then I would do, other open house. I've been blessed enough to have a good amount kind of in my pipeline to kind of keep me busy with my open houses. But I would say that was one of my number one lead gen kind of resources. So doing open houses was really important, and obviously leveraging any listing you have. That's incredibly important, from the door knocking to the marketing to the open house to the follow-ups. Those are huge. So other than SOI, I would say that would be the next thing, would be open houses. So I do have a lot of agents that reach out to me to do my open house, but I still do personally do them myself. And I think that, that's a really good, if you don't have any listings coming up, then I would say absolutely try to do an open house like once a month, if that's something you can do consistently. Because that will definitely help get you comfortable talking to people walking in, getting familiar with just listings and marketing and being out there door knocking. It gives you like a purpose behind it, and not just like randomly walking up to someone's door saying, hey, are you thinking of selling or buying? When you have an open house and you're door knocking, hey, there's an open house this weekend, I'd love to invite you. Just, it's a little easier to have those conversations.
Very good. Any last thoughts or things you forgot to say or would like to still say?
There's no secret sauce, there really isn't. I know I go to events, like I went to the Long Beach CAR Expo, and there's, some top producers there and big teams and things. And, there is a lot of AI and different things that you can implement in your business to kind of generate more leads. But like they said, unless you have your systems in order, it really doesn't matter if you get a bunch of people to see you on Facebook or anything, because you don't have the structure there to really maximize it. So I would say, hold on. People are calling me. Okay. So I would just say, making sure you have a system in place and stay consistent, make your calls. Don't worry too much about know your goals, but just continue to plug along, you know, keep making the calls. Sorry guys, I should put my phone on do not disturb. Keep making the calls, keep having the conversations, and it will come. It will come if you're doing all those things, So and just like I said, stay consistent. We sometimes have a bad day, and there's plenty of times that I'm like, this isn't for me. I suck. I'm not good. Like I've thought of that, So, I mean, if you're having a bad day or you had a bad transaction or you had a buyer or a seller that was a little bit difficult, it's normal to have those thoughts. So if you feel that at any point, know that you're not alone. Keep plugging along. There are so many people. And as you have more transactions and as you have more experience, you won't even remember those. You're going to remember all the ones that cried because they got keys to their house and they're the first generation home buyer, that this older couple that was lost without you, you did everything for them. Those are the people that are going to keep you that are going to push you to be the best you can be, So don't doubt yourself. You can do it, So, but you have to believe in yourself. Everybody else can hype you up all they want. Everyone could be in your corner, but unless you have what it takes and you can do it. And even if I said it all the time, fake it till you make it. That was my motto, I'm like, I won't lie and I won't make things up, but I'll find out for you. Having those answers is important. People want answers, yes, but they appreciate more that you're looking into things for them versus just spouting off something random that they're like, what is that? So it's okay to not have all the answers. It's okay to be, you don't need to know every single car form out there. You don't have to know every single line or every answer to everything before you start selling a house and helping buyers and helping sellers. Get out there and do it. Everything else will come with time. So you don't need to have the business cards and the signs and all the things already. Just have the conversation, make the phone calls, and everything else will come.
She could be a coach.
She's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah. So, and I'm an open book. If you guys ever have any questions, I don't know if you put my email and my phone number there, Jodi, but by all means, you guys call or text me anytime. Like I said, I will answer.
Can you put it? Oh, you're on your phone. I was going to say, can you put it? What's your email, Casey?
Yeah. So casey.de@kw.com. And then, yeah, my Instagram. Yeah, you could look at that. It's realtor.casey. I have Facebook, but I'm on Instagram more for sure. So, and then my phone number, you can put my phone number if you want to. 661-447-5606.
There you go. Did you happen to see Rachel Adams Lee breakout at CAR?
Which hold on,
on social media?
Is she the one that is she from Texas?
No, she's actually from California. I think Sacramento.
Who that was, if she was with her husband, and she was the big one on social media, I think.
Yeah, she doesn't shower every day.
Yes.
Yeah. And that was eye-opening. That was phenomenal.
Yeah, no, there was a lot of great things, and that's what she was saying. It's like being transparent, and you know, people think like, oh, you know, we don't have a good reputation. I don't know if you guys know that, like realtors, like not everyone loves us. You know, so when people can see the real you, you know, that's big. Like when you have a struggle. So like when I talk to my buyer, and even whether it's on social media you do it or just those conversations you have, like I said, I'm an open book. So when I have my buyers that are like, you know, my credit sucks and I don't think I'll ever be ready. And this, I'm like, hey, look, my credit sucked at one point too. I filed bankruptcy at one point in my life. I did this. I did. So like, they're like, whoa, what? And so, and then because they see you now and they're like, well, everyone has a story. So you're asking them to share theirs. You can just share yours too, you know? So
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Casey. We know you're busy and we really appreciate you taking the time out of your day, because we know this information will be helpful, not just to the people that are here live, but also to those that watch this after the fact. We do get a lot of views on the video. So,
you're
and
welcome.
may I ask, are you okay if we put clips on social media?
Oh, of course.
And
Yeah.
tag you? Okay, thank you.
You're very
All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much for taking your time. I know many of you took your lunch hours today to be here, and some have already had to leave to go back to work, and that's okay. So we will see you next Thursday. Of course, we'll see you at other things before that as well. So have a great rest of your week.
Bye,
Thanks,
guys.
Katie.
You're welcome.
Thank you,
Thanks, Casey.
Casey.
You're very welcome.
Thank
Bye.
you, Jordan.